Hi, my name is Jared Woock, speaking to you from beautiful Southwest Wisconsin, USA. I became a partner with Idea Pros in October of 2018. A few weeks ago, I was asked to help promote Idea Pros' mission of promoting entrepreneurship. Today, we will be talking about how to come up with a good idea. All advice and opinions in this video are my own and not necessarily that of Idea Pros. Something to keep in mind during this lecture is I will not talk specifically on business models, how to write a business plan, how to start a business, sales, marketing, leadership skills, how to make a pitch deck, how to pitch to investors, how to manage a business, or how to scale a business. All of those topics are very important to making your idea successful, but we will strictly stick to this topic, how to come up with a good idea. A mentor of mine explained business and entrepreneurship very simply with this scale. 0 is your idea. So if you don't have an idea, even a good idea, a bad idea, doesn't matter. If you don't have an idea, you're not even on this scale. 1 is your first sale. And 100 is household name. This is to scale your business and grow your business. Keep this in mind. This is what we will be talking about. We will only be talking about how to come up with a good idea. The rest of this, which is hundreds of hours of thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours of work. Coming up with a new idea is a special moment. We even have a name for it, Eureka. We even have a symbol for it, a light bulb turning on. But this ability to come up with a good idea is a mindset, a way of thinking. This mindset makes you see opportunities. I caught my entrepreneurial bug back in 2010, and in 2015, I was struck with the idea for the product that I'm working with Idea Pros on. In 2018, I became partner with Idea Pros to get my idea to market from 0 to 1. None of that would have happened if I didn't create and nurture this mindset. Since 2010, I have had over 24 good ideas. Probably thousands of ideas, not all of them good. Having a good idea does not mean you can make a business based on it, but it is where you have to start. And just like me, you might have hundreds of ideas before you find the one you are passionate about and know you can bring to market. In this segment, we will be talking about the opportunity mindset. We will be talking about how to create it, how to nurture it, how to grow it. You will need 5 things to be an entrepreneur. First one is something that I cannot give you, but you need, and that is principles. The second thing you need is hunger. You can be a good person, you can be smart, you can be gifted, talented, but without hunger, your idea isn't going to go anywhere. Knowledge. Skills. And finally, tools. These 5 things are the foundation to entrepreneurship, business, and for the most part, life. Some principles that are important for you to create and develop and to nurture are work ethics. Ethics. What is right? What is wrong? What is important to you? What is it that you want to focus on and spend your time, spend your life on? Patience. is extremely important. Perseverance, part of patience. Trust and loyalty. Those are just a few important things principles that you need to start your own business and create an idea. Luckily today, with the power of the internet, you have the knowledge of the world in your pocket. Skills, developing skills. That takes a lot of practice, taking your knowledge and applying them into actions. And last but not least, tools. All you need to come up with a good idea as far as tools goes, right? To start your adventure as an entrepreneur and to start your business and to grow your business, you need only 3 things: paper, pencil, and time. That is the 3 things that you need to come up with an idea. Now, obviously, to grow your business into other things, you need to add tools, add skills, add knowledge, grow your hunger, and work on your principles. That brings me to a story of the man who bought a house with a paperclip. Not everybody watching this today will become entrepreneurs. Not everybody watching today will come up with a good idea because they didn't have one of these things. You need all of these things to come up with an idea to grow your business. Bear in mind, not everyone else watching today has all of the skills, all of the knowledge, all of the tools that they need to come up with a good idea. And that's okay. You don't need all of them today. You need to develop them and grow them. And a great story to illustrate the importance of how to do that is the story of the man who bought a house with a paperclip. Being a very smart and thrifty man, he knew he could trade a friend of his. So he said, I got a paperclip. I'll give you this paperclip for a pencil. Let's make it an eraser. So the friend gave the man with the paperclip gave his friend the paperclip, and his friend gave him an eraser. So now he has an eraser. A couple weeks later, he finds someone, a colleague or someone that he knew, and they needed a pencil. Now he has a pencil. A couple weeks go by, and he finds someone who needs a pencil. He has a pencil, and he talks to the man, and the man says, I'll take that pencil, and I have a pair of scissors. So they trade. Now we have a pair of scissors. He gets his next item, a couple reams of paper, all the way to a house. Now, as you can imagine, very plainly, for this man to go from a paperclip all the way to a house, it would take years. And that is also true about being an entrepreneur and becoming successful with your idea. This is a very important idea for the opportunity mindset to understand is you take what you have and snowball it larger and larger and larger and larger and larger until you get to where you want to be. Another great point that this story illustrates is a core principle of the opportunity mindset, and that is to see a need and fill a need. Or what I like to say, see a problem, solve a problem. Every single step that this gentleman took to get to his house, he saw someone who needed a paperclip. He saw someone who needed an eraser. He saw someone who needed a pencil, scissors, paper, tires, car, truck. So as you can see, that story illustrates the key and how this worked. See a need, fill a need. See a problem, solve a problem. most people kind of have an idea of what an entrepreneur is. I've heard hundreds of definitions. There's technical definitions if you look up online. What all of these definitions have in common, when you boil them all down, they all have one thing in common, and that is an entrepreneur is a person who starts their own business. A lot of people run businesses. They buy a business or are hired to run a business. They're managers, they are businessmen. They don't describe themselves necessarily as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is someone who starts a business. There's a lot of reasons to do that. There's a lot of reward. There's also a lot of risk. I am an entrepreneur because I am passionate about and see the need for job creators. Entrepreneurs create new jobs, new industries, new opportunities. That is one of the reasons why I become an entrepreneur. When you find a good idea, you will be consumed by the spirit of an entrepreneur, and it will drive you. All right, what is the spirit of an entrepreneur? Spirit of an entrepreneur is the feeling of, if I don't do it, someone else will. And that brings us to the next topic. Why? Why do you want to become an entrepreneur? If you cannot answer this question of why do you want to be an entrepreneur, then stop watching this video, because this is the key to you working nights, weekends, not going to parties, not drinking, not having fun, working 12-hour days, 14-hour days. If you do not have a reason why to do that, take all your life savings and put it into a crazy idea that no one's ever done before and no one knows if it will work. If you do not have a reason why that you are doing this or pursuing this, you're wasting your time. Having a reason why will give you perseverance. In a Harvard business study, hundreds of CEOs were given surveys with all sorts of questions about why they started their business, what made them tick, what made them think. And in there, they also asked questions on what trait or traits that they believed made them successful. What was the single trait or traits that they believed got them to where they were? The most common and most reflected in those responses was perseverance. A lot of times these now very famous CEOs started with nothing, absolutely nothing. Some of them were homeless, living out of their cars, but they had this one thing, perseverance. All of them had this in common. And I know anybody still watching right now, hopefully most of you will have asked yourself this question, answered this question, what is driving you? Maybe you have an idea, maybe you don't. Perseverance is key. Now, to come up with a good idea, and more importantly, potentially launch a business based on it, you need as much luck as you possibly can get. Luckily, no pun intended, we can create our own luck. Okay, so that brings us to the question, what is luck? In my life, I have used this simple equation in my career, in my personal life, and in me launching my business. This simple equation has been extremely important to my success. The first part is planning plus opportunity. Planning. I have recorded this video that we're doing today 5 or 6 times. This might be our 7th time I'll be recording this. I spent weeks writing the script for this video, planning. I self-taught. I've gone to Toastmaster. I've been a member of Toastmasters and given speeches. I've managed and given presentations, planning. So all of everything I'm doing today has been because of planning. Well, that brings us to the second part, opportunity. Several weeks ago, I was asked by Tessa, member of Idea Pros, marketing manager at Idea Pros, and she gave me the opportunity to speak to all of the followers of Idea Pros and Fred Carey. And I plainly asked, well, I have this idea. If I wrote a script for it and sent it to you, would you be willing to look at it? And she said yes. That was the opportunity. Now we are here today. The same is true with good ideas. You cannot see or have a good idea without planning. So we will focus on planning here for a few minutes. Something that I like to think about when planning and developing a business or idea is prepare a plan or plan to fail. A big part of planning is learning. Learning how to read, learning how to do math, learning business acumen, learning anything and everything. I spend an hour every day reading and learning books, recent news, scientific journals, scientific news, articles, and books focused on my career and on business, entrepreneurship, invention. You can learn about hundreds of inventors, entrepreneurs, from Steve Jobs to Henry Ford to Bell Labs to IBM. So learning, and we're very fortunate today with the internet, learning is easier than ever. I'm going to go quickly over the two ways that we learn. It's the easy way and the hard way. Now, I'll give you just a quick couple minutes or a couple seconds here to guess what the easy way and the hard way is. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with failure. All right, so the easy way is we learn from others' failures. A friend of mine and I were hiking in the swamp in Florida back when I was in college, and we came across a creek. We kind of walked along the creek a little bit to find a spot where we could get across to the other side. We found an area that was somewhat narrow, the sides were steep, so we could jump across. Well, he decided he wanted to go first, so I watched him jump across. Unfortunately, he did not jump far enough. In fact, I remember very specifically watching him in midair realize he did not jump far enough and try to turn around in midair like a cartoon character to go back. Well, it ended up with him in the mud, me laughing, and I learned that I should not underestimate the distance. I needed to jump as far as I could, and so I made it across. Very simple. That is the easy way. The hard way is, as my friend learned the hard way, that he needed to jump farther to understand the principles of strength and will and determination and perseverance, because you will, in your journeys, you will make plenty of mistakes. You will learn the easy way and a hard way. Obviously, I want as many people watching today to learn the easy way, learn from my mistakes, learn from others' mistakes, but you will learn the hard way. I did, everyone does. It's natural, it's part of the adventure of becoming an entrepreneur. That brings us to a story of what does not kill you makes you stronger. That is extremely, extremely important. And I learned this from a psychological study on victims of 9/11. It's a very sad chapter in American history, a sad event, lots of pain and suffering. If you want to make lemonade out of lemons, this is one of those But in a scientific study, scientists found that over the course of 20 years, they regularly checked up on family members who had lost loved ones in the 9/11 attack. And what they discovered through observations and questionnaires over many years is that individuals who believed that what does not kill you makes you stronger, their life was much, much, much better after that trauma. In fact, suicide was very common, depression, unemployment, it was a very bad time, but scientists discovered in that very painful experience that what does not kill you makes you stronger. And that lesson, what I learned there in that story is I have applied in my own life. Bad things are gonna happen, and you learn from those things and you keep going. So I would also, at this point, I wanna give you a little bit of homework. I think this will probably be the only homework I give you today. And that is, I want you to look up, if you're serious about becoming an entrepreneur and creating your own opportunities in your life, I want you to look up a very interesting or a very important question and that is, where did Henry Ford get the idea for the assembly line? The last subject in planning and learning that I want to go over real quick, as fast as I can, is the half-life of knowledge. Now, this is an interesting concept and a very important because as you are learning, you will discover that not all knowledge that was useful in the past is useful today. And this is going to bring us into a segue into opportunity. A scientific study found that science has a half-life of 40 years. So, all right, Jared, what is a half-life? A half-life, I'm sure a lot of people watching TV or movies know what nuclear radiation is and how there are parts of the world, Japan and Russia or Ukraine, that the nuclear radiation in certain areas are so high that you cannot live there. It's dangerous, it causes cancer. So scientists, nuclear engineers, they have calculations on the amount of radiation and what the half-life of that radiation is. And the half-life of a radiation means how much time does it take for the radiation to be half, right? Well, in this scenario, it's 10,000 years, right? And again, if you did another one, another half, another 10,000 years, right? All the way until it's very low, grads. All right, so 100%, 50%, 25%, 12.5%, okay? The same is true with ideas. Ideas also have a half-life. And that half-life for ideas and for knowledge is today, as far as I know, 40 years. So in 40 years, all of the knowledge that we know today, half of it will not be true in 40 years. This is extremely, extremely important because you will be spending a lot of time learning as much as you can. But this 40-year half-life of knowledge creates opportunity, which is finally what this whole lecture is about. Thank you, Jared, for getting to your point. So every 40 years, knowledge is halved, which creates opportunity. Great example is the horseless carriage. When the horseless carriage was invented by Mr. Benz, it was widely believed to be a fad. In fact, when entrepreneurs and inventors went to carriage making factories, there were over 100 carriage manufacturing plants in the country. And they all were asked by these inventors to use parts of their plants or their whole plant to create horseless carriages, or the car today. And I don't think a single one of those carriage plants ever took the opportunity to work with these engineers or inventors to create horseless carriages or cars. That brings me to a great lesson in the Japanese spirit of opportunity. The Japanese spirit of opportunity is a spirit that is completely bald except for a long tuft of hair out the front of his head. And the spirit of opportunity runs around all day long, nonstop. And he is so fast, you cannot run faster than him. It is impossible. But you can catch the spirit of opportunity if he happens to be running directly towards you. You only have a certain amount of time to be ready to see him, to get ready to catch him, and finally to jump and to catch him. If you do not grab him when he runs towards you, he will run past you, and you will not be able to grab him because he's bald. That's the idea. It's a very interesting analogy, but I can tell you that story has helped me in a lot of ways throughout my career and in my business opportunities. A huge opportunity that everyone in the entire world has today is the opportunity of the internet. Today, every hour, more information is created than existed 500 years ago. Let me say that again, just so you make sure you heard me. Today, every hour, more information is created than existed 500 years ago. There is more information, more knowledge, more opportunity today because of the internet and because of our connections, because of science and opportunities than ever has it been in the history of humanity. I want to reiterate the importance of opportunity from my previous story by sharing with you Bill Gross's 5 elements to success. Bill Gross is a very successful investor in the United States. He has started invested in over 200 companies over his career. And these are the elements that he looks at when looking at a investment opportunity. And luckily for you and me, he took decades of businesses and investments that he had and analyzed them to determine what factors turned out over decades to be the most important to an idea or business's success. And the least important was actually a surprise to me. It was funding at 14%. How much money did the business need? How much money did the business have? Funding was the least important. The second least important was the business model at 24%, which actually that is not very surprising. A lot of startups or businesses, it's very common for them to pivot, change their business model. A great example is Netflix. Their original business model was you would order DVDs online and they would be mailed to you through the mail. Now, primarily their business is streaming to the internet. The next is idea, is the next, which is 28%. Again, that also was very surprising to me. I was expecting that to be higher, more important. What is your business? What is your product? What is your service? The next would be team at 32%. So team is who are you? Who are the people starting the business? So 32% is pretty good mark, pretty high. Looking at who is going to start it. Are they competent? Are they trustworthy? Are they knowledgeable? Are they passionate? And the last, but obviously not least, is timing at 42%. When you launch your idea, turns out to be the largest factor to success out of these over 200 companies over the last several decades. When they launched is the most important. And when you think about it for a little while, it makes sense. If I pitched to investors, or I came up with an idea where I wanted to connect all of the households and businesses in the entire world with a machine, and they can all speak to each other through a invention I call the spider web. People will say, well, we have the internet, we have the World Wide Web. If I don't have a technology or an idea that is better than the current internet, then yes, it's a good idea, but someone's already thought of it decades ago, and now it's mature and it's now common and popular. So yeah, okay, the internet is a good idea. Bad timing, decades late. Or if I have an idea to build a spaceship that can hold tens of thousands of people. Okay, that's a good idea, but decades too early. So all of that is about opportunity and highlights the importance of timing, seeing opportunity, and being able to act. I want to go over some key concepts. Key concepts are important for you to see opportunity. You know what an opportunity is, you know what you need to do, you know how you need to plan and prepare and learn and grow your skills, grow your tools. So we're going to go over some basic principles and concepts of entrepreneurship. The first basic concept and principle, very simple, is money. Now, everyone knows what money is, but do we know why and it's so valuable, how it works? We're just going to go over real quick. Money is not the most important thing, as I just showed, to a good idea, but understanding money is extremely important. I can't go over everything about money today, but I'll give you a quick overview, and that is money is a unit of measurement. Take a minute real quick, or a second real quick, and look at a clock, either on your phone or on your laptop or on the wall. Time, a second, a minute, an hour, a day is a unit of measurement. A foot, a meter, inch, a centimeter, a mile, a kilometer is a unit of measurement. Plain and simple, nothing more, nothing less. And it's basic core. Obviously, you could read books about it and the history of money. I highly encourage you to do that. But at its core is a unit of measurement. All right, what does it measure? Money is a unit of measurement of value. All right, that brings us to the next question. What is value? Value can be broken down as simply as possible to supply and demand. Now, most people in the world, we're consumers, we're salespeople, or we're living our lives. We have heard and are familiar with this term, supply and demand. So I'm going to try to break it down a little bit more, make it easier for you to for most people to understand. 8th grade reading level. Demand comes down to, for the most part, need. See a need, fill a need. And supply is rarity. How rare is tool or service, this product or service? The more rare a product is, more demand a product is, the higher the value, perceived or real. For example, I will use the example of the pen. So I have 2 pens here. Now I need a pen to write notes, take notes, both do the job perfectly well. This pen I can buy for a couple pennies. It comes in a pack of 10, I believe, for close to $1. Now this pen here was a gift to me. I cannot buy this gift. I cannot buy this pen. This pen, there's only this one pen. It was given to me by my uncle, Uncle O'Brien, down in South Carolina. He is a retired Navy captain. He was a captain of aircraft carriers during the Cold War. And he gave me this pen and told me the story about this pen. And I keep this in my office, and I look at it and I think about him, and I'd like to tell the story about this pen. Back during the Cold War and the space race, my uncle had the opportunity to meet individuals who worked in NASA, including some astronauts. Well, he spent time with them and went to parties and dinners with them at their houses and talked about their careers. And one night, the subject of life insurance came up, and it was a problem for these astronauts. They could not afford life insurance. They were worried. If you know anything about the Apollo program, there was an accident around that time. And so the astronauts were worried about insurance and taking care of their families in case anything bad would happen. My uncle, he had talked to them, and they were coming up with ideas, what they could do, and the idea of signing their signatures on blank pieces of paper for the Apollo 11 mission in particular. I do know that each of the astronauts on the mission, they had spent time a couple weeks before the mission, they left their families. They each signed with their signature over 500 pieces of paper. In case that they were not to come back, their families could hold on to those pieces of papers and sell them to the public as collector's items. Obviously a very sad thought to think that that could have happened. Luckily, they all survived. They all came back from the moon. Out of gratitude, one of the astronauts that my uncle knew gave him this pen as thank you for helping them. Now, this has a lot of sentimental value to me. I have paperwork that he gave with me that has the astronaut's name. So it wasn't Neil Armstrong or Apollo 13 missions, or 11 missions, but I'm sure that this pen is worth more than a few pennies. If I went online or went to different collectors' websites, I'm sure I could find a group of people who would be very interested in having this in their collection to show it and talk about the history, talk about how it went to space, how it helped these astronauts in a time of need. Very rare, very important, and a lot of historical value. So that is how you create value. And it's very important to be able to see those value propositions, value opportunities. Very important subject. If you're starting your own business, being an entrepreneur, coming with a good idea, you need to understand the economy. I cannot go over everything about the economy. It's very complex. So I'm just going to go over the basics. What is an economy? An economy consists of a formal economy and an informal economy. Okay, so there's two types of economies. In this discussion, we will talk about the formal economy strictly. We will not discuss the informal economy. So what is a formal economy? A formal economy consists of legal market activity with monetary transactions. I pay you for your product or service. Inside of an economy, we have a number of things. We have possibly the most important thing, demand. The other is supply. We have buyers and we have sellers. And buyers and sellers trade. They trade products and they also trade services. What are some products? Products are tools and consumables. So a cart is a tool. A pie is a consumable. You consume it. A bicycle is a tool. A gallon of gasoline is a consumable. Hammer is a tool. A nail is a consumable. A computer is a tool. Electricity is a consumable. Most people are buyers, they're consumers. People who are employed are sellers. You are trading your time, your services, your time to your boss, your employer. That is the trade. He pays you a certain amount of money per hour or per widget for your time. Services are actions and knowledge. Father was a carpenter. He remodeled homes. He was paid to use tools to fix a roof, remodel a kitchen. He offered them a service. Now that we have the basic core principles of a formal economy, we will go over monetization, how to get paid, different models for getting paid for your product or service. In a formal economy, there are three primary economic engines. There are three secondary economic engines, but we won't focus on those. We're going to focus on the three primary ones, and they are commerce, capitalism, and socialism. Most people are very, very, very familiar with commerce. They practice it every day. I mentioned earlier in our last section that most people trade their time to their employer. Commerce is buy and sell. When you go to the grocery store and buy food, or the gas station, you are buying and selling. You are trading. You are practicing commerce. Capitalism is a little less understood. Most people haven't really studied capitalism. Capitalism is borrow and lend. So this could be your bank. This could actually be family and friends. They can borrow and they can lend to you. You could borrow from them, or vice versa. You can lend to them and they can borrow from you. So what you're doing is you're taking, let's say a friend of yours needs $10,000 to buy a machine for his business. You're like, okay, I will lend you $10,000, but I need something in return. He says, well, I'll give you, when I use this machine, I will make more money in my business, and I will give you a percentage of that extra business. I'm like, all right, deal. I will lend you this money, and you will pay me back, and I will make $1,000 off that $10,000. Another form of capitalism besides just borrow and lending is investing. Investing is a type of borrow and lend. Move on to the next one, and that is socialism. Socialism is tax and spend. A lot of, especially in first world countries like the United States, Europe, and more throughout the world, socialism is a very important key economic engine that keeps the economy running. For example, socialism spends for bridges and roads and highways, all important things for businesses to function. If a bridge is down, I live not too far from the Mississippi River. If one of those bridges is not properly maintained and it needs to close down because it cannot support traffic, that would be very bad for the economy in this region. Now, that bridge could be funded with a toll. So you would, before you got on the bridge, there would be someone to take your money, and you would buy a pass across that bridge. But luckily for us, we don't need to. We pay taxes to pay for infrastructure like bridges, schools, police, things that it's, as a group of people, as a community, it's better to pay for things in this economic engine. Now, this is very important because to understand how to market yourself is your idea in the realm of capitalism? Most likely no. Is your idea in an economic engine of socialism? Maybe not. Most of my career has been, my customer has been the government. For over 10 years, I worked for the military. I sold my time and my services and my skills to the government to help solve problems for the government. There is a lot of business in the world focused on serving governments, local governments, state governments, federal governments, even kind of international governments, the United Nations, for example. But for the most part, I assume most people watching today, we will be focusing on commerce. But it's very important to keep these economic engines in mind. Something to mention, I do know that another partner at Idea Bros, maybe one of his first customers might be the government. And that will be a big business for him to do. And it will help the government, save the government a lot of money when that happens. So keep your mind open. There are other opportunities, but for the rest of the discussion, we will be focusing on commerce. In a formal economy, there are three primary business relationships. On this side of the board, we have our sellers. On this side of the board, we have the buyer. And there are essentially three different relationships that exist in the market. Business to customer is probably the most well-known. Most of the viewers will be most familiar with that. Imagine you go to the grocery store and buy watermelon or banana or steak. That interaction of you picking up a banana and paying that business money for the banana is a business to customer relationship. Now, business to business is actually one of my favorite business models. That grocery store has a relationship with other businesses where the grocery store will buy the banana from a wholesaler. So the grocery store conducts business with banana sellers. And last is customer to customer. So customer to customer is, I wouldn't say new, but its popularity has grown a lot in the last decade, primarily because of the internet. Hopefully a lot of you are familiar with eBay. eBay is a customer to customer platform where all they do is they have customers, people who want to sell something, get rid of a couch, get rid of a TV, get rid of a pair of shoes or shirt or clothes. And they also have customers who want to buy something. I want to wrap up this section, key concepts of how to come up with a good idea, with this very important concept, basically summed up in 2 sentences. The one is actually biblical. In the Bible, it claims that there is nothing new under the sun. Well, that's an interesting thing to say because 2,000 years ago, there weren't cars. 2,000 years ago, there weren't cell phones. 2,000 years ago, there weren't satellites or highways or huge boats. That's a very interesting thing to say, to claim. But if you analyze what this actually means, what it's trying to say, it essentially means everything is a remix. The car was a remix of a horseless carriage. It looked just like a horse-drawn carriage, and they took that and added an internal combustion engine. And that internal combustion engine came from a steam engine. So they just combined the two and made a horseless carriage. And of course, they shortened horseless carriage to just car. And that's what we use today. This concept right here, if there is anything that I have taught you today, you can forget everything I've said. You might not be successful, but if there's anything that you take away from my message today, everything is a remix. Great example that everyone's familiar with is the cell phone. The cell phone just took a wireless radio receiver, a camera, a chip, a battery, a screen, buttons from computers basically, and shrank them down and created a new thing. Made it small enough that it can fit in your pocket. So they didn't really invent anything new. They just organized it, and obviously it was a lot of work, decades of work actually, to take all of these different things and put them together to make a new thing that everyone calls a cell phone. Today, in this lecture, we went over the opportunity mindset and key concepts to create the opportunity mindset that you will need to come up with a good idea. In the next video, I will go over these steps using an example that I came up with. It's kind of fun. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, thank you for watching and keep at it. Thanks. Bye.